Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chitty Sobros. Back at it again with another Orson Scott Card novel. We got Speaker for the Dead today, a novel published in 1986. It is the indirect follow-up to Ender's Game. So I finished this pretty soon after I finished Ender's Game. I blew through this guy. This is a very, very good novel, very fun experience, very different from Ender's Game. Again, that elephant in the room. If you're unaware of what's going on with our author here and why some people have some issues with him, watch my Ender's Game video. I explain it a little bit over there. Basically, what it boils down to is if you can find a way to find this at the library or at a used bookstore, some way to read this without contributing to monetarily to Mr. Card. That's basically what I'm going to do, right? This is almost a 5 out of 5 novel here for me. I really liked the expansion of this world. I really liked the tone change because it changes in a pretty big way from Ender's Game, right? Ender's Game was very fast paced, a lot of action. Speaker for the Dead doesn't do that. This is a big tonal shift, but in my opinion, a very good one. We get an opportunity to get into Andrew Wiggins' head a lot more here, and that's something that I appreciated. He's also much older than he was at the end of Ender's Game. He's about 35 in terms of where he is in his life, and that kind of sounds a little bit weird because he's like 3,000 years older than when he was in Ender's Game. That's kind of strange. But what happens here is he's doing these long space flights, and what happens when you're traveling at these speeds is your aging process um, stays kind of where it is, and for the rest of the world, it's going a lot slower. So much more time is passing for the world, and not so much is passing for you. So the events of Ender's Game are ancient compared to what's going on in Speaker for the Dead. So the basic plot point here is there's a colony world called Lusitania, and it's inhabited by Portuguese Catholics and a race of aliens that they call the Pequeninos. I'm probably going to pronounce a lot of this wrong. Portuguese is very hard for regular Southern American ears to understand and even try to replicate. So I'm gonna fuck that up. Sorry, I don't know what the else to say about it. The Pequeninos are this race of aliens that live on this planet, and there's people that are studying them, and they're very limited by some of the rules cast on by Space Congress, right? So they don't want them to be influenced too much by the colonists, and they don't want to accidentally infect them with not only anything biological but by any ideas. They don't want them to get off the course of their own evolution or off the course of their own culture and be too influenced by humanity. So it's a very slow process for these xenobiologers to come in here and learn about this race of aliens. There's an uncomfortable thing with what happened with the Formics, the buggers. From the first novel, we realized that we messed up on that. So we're being very careful with the Pequeninos. What ends up happening is upon learning a very important scientific piece of information and the desire to share that sort of revelation with the Pequeninos and with everyone else, it ends with the death of one of the xenobiologers at the hands of the Pequeninos, who so far had been completely peaceful, very inquisitive, very kind as far as they can tell. They're very open about learning about humans, and they're having a hard time learning about one another's culture and biology and stuff. But they seem to have been very okay with it at that point. And then all of a sudden, they find in what seems to be like a ritual sacrifice um, the body of one of the xenobiologists, and they can't figure out why they might have done that. Things are uncomfortable with them in terms of just not getting one another or just having a hard time getting over that hump of, they're a different species, they're a different race. Now, for reasons that they can't understand, they've killed one of the humans, and because of where they are trying to learn about this culture, and because they don't seem to want to go to war or anything, and because there's no repercussions by law, there's this undertone of a threat from them. The other xenobiologist calls upon Andrew Wiggin, who is now a speaker for the dead. He's adopted a new role, having come off being the guy that killed almost an entire race of aliens, has kind of reformed himself into like a funeral speaker. He would go to funerals and he would speak about the departed, and it would be a very honest speech about who the departed was, the things that they were known for, and this can range from the very best of them to the very worst. So there would be some uncomfortable things talked about at these speakings, right? So the xenobiologist calls up through hyper advanced communication, is able to instantly reach out to the speaker for the dead, Andrew. They don't know that he's the one that killed all the Formics. They reach out to him and they want to, have this speaking for the xenobiologist that's died. Now, I keep saying the xenobiology, these names, that's why this is not a perfect novel for me. And it's just, again, because of my upbringing, being an American, being a Texan. I really struggled with the Portuguese. Not only are these names difficult to conceptualize in my head how it's supposed to sound, they're spelled a little bit strange. On top of that, they all have nicknames. So I already had a hard time figuring out who was who, the nicknames, which adds just another layer of confusion for me. So if it weren't for that, this is basically a perfect novel if it weren't for that. So Andrew decides to go on this trip, abandoning Valentine, his sister, and guess what? Now there's some AI here. So there's like a Siri type thing that's hyper advanced, connected to all of they call them Ansibles, the communication systems across the, I guess, galaxy, right? And it's this hyper intelligent being. It's kind of its own intelligence, its own alien race in a way. So Andrew, and her name is Jane, she hangs out with him this whole time. So there's humans, there's the Formics, there's Jane, our AI, there's the Pequeninos. There's like four versions of hyper advanced intelligent beings in this story. And there's so much going on culturally, alliances, and how do we proceed moving forward when things get dangerous, when there's deaths? What do we do? How do we prevent this from going crazy and making the same mistakes that we made in the past? That's what this book is basically about. So Andrew gets to the colony, and it's a difficult situation there. There's another death by the Pequeninos, and they took out another person, and they still haven't figured out what this issue is. Now, there's a character called Novinia who has hidden this revelation from before that is connected to why the Pequeninos are dispatching of some humans. And she's afraid that if people find out about this, more deaths are going to occur, and she doesn't want to have the guilt of being the reason why something like that could happen. There's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of family drama, issues with cultures and race and religion. And it's basically all the complex things that you want to see from just a story in general. And it's written in this science fiction place. It's so cool. I was very fascinated by they call them the piggies, the buggers, the piggies, right? Um, I was fascinated by their culture and their biology. Through the course of the story, when more is revealed about their motivations, and they eventually discover who Andrew is and his connection to the Formics, and how he has been holding on to a bugger queen egg or whatever, who she's been looking for a new place to breed and get her race back in order and come back and not be an extinct race anymore. And the buggers find out about her, and she can communicate telepathically. So then there's that whole aspect of them discussing with the piggies what the next move is. Is there room for the buggers, humans, and Pequeninos on Lusitania. The Pequeninos they have ambition that the humanity doesn't really understand. They want to not be just in their little corner of the universe. They want to expand just like humanity did, just like the buggers did. They explain there's not going to be room left for us. We don't necessarily want to have negative feelings towards any other race, but they don't want to be pigeonholed into this one spot. They want to be able to breathe and they want to advance. And that's so interesting and it feels very realistic. Yeah, a lot of it is just sort of fantastical and science fiction-y, but if you were to really lay down what the motivations for all these characters and beings are, they all make sense. You understand why some of the things that are secret are kept secret. You understand why they don't want to step out of line, create more issues with like the government, space congress, whatever. You understand why they don't want to make it worse. You understand why there's frustration with all the red tape that they're given because they probably could have knocked, they probably didn't need Andrew to come in and help them out. That's what ends up happening because he's our protagonist. If the red tape wasn't there, the colony could have just figured this out on their own and they could have come to the conclusion they needed to come to. They could have broken some rules, understood the piggies a little bit better. There's also a virus that's in there too that has changed the physical makeup and the DNA, the structure of cells on the planet, and infects the human beings also. There's a lot of complicated stuff in this novel, and this is not a huge novel. Card has a way of laying this all out and not making it confusing. Again, other than the nicknames and the Portuguese, other than that, this is not too hard to understand. I can see some people sort of finding the science to be a little bit dry, but I don't know how you couldn't find this interesting, even though there's not really action, there's not really war. It really is just finding out these secrets, this mystery, and letting it unfold and learning about cultures through some of the things that are happening. That's all this book is. So basically, this is a strong recommendation, you guys. I loved this book. This is up there, I think, with some of my favorite books of all time. I might read it again very soon. I'll talk a little bit about the main sort of revelation here. This is a spoiler. Go read the book. I'm going to say the thing. They find out Andrew breaks the rules. Now, Lusitania is a rogue colony. They're in trouble for breaking the rules about how they're approaching the Pequeninos. They find out the reason that the xenobiologers were killed by the piggies is because it was supposed to be an honor. There is a life cycle of these beings. The piggies understood us to have different courses of life. You would completely change your biology to move on to the next form. The main part of the piggies are these like weird pig nose, like cricket looking things. When they die, they become trees. And we didn't know that. The humans didn't know that. And the piggies didn't understand that when we die, we don't transform into a different thing. When we die, we're done. They thought that they were elevating the xenobiologists because they were friends, they were diplomats, and they were figuring things out with them. And part of what happened there was when they killed them, they thought they were letting them go on to the next part of life. And it was supposed to be this loving act. It was supposed to be an honor. It was not supposed to be murder. And when this revelation happens to both humanity and Piggy, when they find that understanding, it wrecks you because they realize they murdered them. And man, that was rough. Yeah, this is a fantastic novel, you guys. Almost perfect, and that's rare. And I've been kind of on the books that I've reviewed before. There's several of them that I haven't liked, and I don't know what it is about this one that really like got to me. It is so good, you guys. I think I'm the age where Andrew is in this, and maybe that's part of why it makes a little bit more sense to me. I'm not trying to relate it to Ender as like a 6-year-old to like a 10-year-old. I'm relating to him as a grown man and the context of that is a lot more fulfilling. And I don't know, it was really great. So I'm gonna get out of here. You guys definitely check this out. Let me know what you think. Again, thank you so much for joining me, you guys. We'll be back at it again soon. I'm gonna try to knock out some more books, bring some more stuff for you guys. This is gonna be a busy time for me with work, and then the holidays are right around the corner. So we'll be back at you with some more stuff as soon as I can, y'all. Thank you so much.